All right, what's happening, everybody? Fresh off of a Monday night thriller with the Eagles and the Falcons. Kirk Cousins leads his team down for a game winning touchdown in the final minute. Jesse Bates seals it with an interception off of Jalen Hurts. Thrilling Monday night game. A lot of fun stuff in the second half. First half was a little slow, but that second half was action packed, and I'm excited to talk about it. So before we do, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought. Let's get into it. So, Kirk Cousins, known for his Monday night, I would say, failures, lost his first 9 Monday night games. First game with the Falcons against the Steelers did not look good. The whole offense didn't look sharp. He looked slow. You wondered how much that Achilles was going to affect him coming into this year, and you thought it might be a bigger issue after last week's game. You were worried. He's never been very mobile in the first place, and then he's, in his mid 30s, and you tear your Achilles for not already being a mobile guy. You wondered, could this be more of an issue than we potentially thought? Because as he didn't need to rely on his movement, these D linemen are getting faster and faster as the years go. And to win in this modern NFL, you really have to have some sort of improvisational ability at the quarterback position. All the teams that seem to be in the playoffs perennially are teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens, even the Bengals to an extent. Joe Burrow, where, not known as a scrambler, still is mobile enough to break the pocket and hit some big plays down the field. But that's never been Kirk Cousins' game. He has an occasional scramble when the defense is playing man and they're all with their backs turned to him. He can escape, but he likes to play from the pocket. And I think part of the reason that he signed with the Falcons is they have a pretty stout offensive line. They got a young guard in Matthew Bergeron, another all-pro guard in Chris Lindstrom, a tackle in, I think his name is Jake Matthews, a veteran, very good tackle. So they have a pretty solid offensive line, but you're a little worried after last week going up against that vaunted Steelers defense. Is his torn Achilles gonna linger throughout the season? And you thought it at a couple times tonight at the beginning of the game, but he really started to heat up. And in his press conference right after the game, he mentioned that it's a new team. We're shaking the rust off. There's a lot of things that need to come together still, and he felt like he could have been better. And I think you started to see some of that rust really fall off, halfway through the third into the fourth, because Kirk Cousins is not known to be a quarterback that is constantly leading his team down the field in the final minutes for clutch scores. He I don't know if he doesn't have the gene, but a lot of the times you see him make these boneheaded plays in clutch situations. You're like, oh my gosh, what was that? And there was no better opportunity than tonight. Second game with his new team, already 0-1, tons of questions on, was this the right choice? Should we put Michael Penix in? Minute and a half left, and you can't script it any better. Monday Night Football, the whole crowd or the whole nation watching. You're an underdog. Eagles are, deep playoff favorites. And that was one of the most surgical and beautiful game-winning drives I've ever seen. You have a minute and a half left, no timeouts. You got to go 70 yards. And I know the Eagles defense isn't the Steelers or the Patriots or the Ravens or the Chiefs, but they have a lot of good talent at every level on their team. Very young and still needs to develop a little bit, and I think you saw that a little bit in that final drive. their inexperience of playing in those situations kind of bit them a little bit. But I think all the credit has to go to Kirk Cousins and his play caller, Zach Robinson, and his playmakers like Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Darnell Mooney, who had a couple really big catches on that drive. Kirk Cousins goes down 6 plays, 70 yards, in a minute and 5 seconds. I mean, he went 6 for 7 on that drive, and he looked lights out. And you could even argue that the one pass that was incomplete was pass interference. I think if Ray McLeod didn't try to sell pass interference, I mean, he threw that right into his chest. That was a dot on the numbers. He was lights out this drive. And you have to feel like that is a huge sigh of relief for Kirk Cousins, the coaching staff, and all Falcons fans. You know, you find yourself kind of, if you're not dedicated to one team, you find yourself kind of fluctuating throughout the game, figuring out, am I rooting for the Falcons? Am I rooting for the Eagles? Because I think there's multiple reasons to kind of choose a side in each game. And as the game went on, I was like, kind of like the Eagles. I like their players. I like Hurts. I'm rooting for them. Philly's a cool town. But then when it got to third down, 18-15, third down, Eagles can get a first down. They win the game. You're like, oh, I kind of want to see a little bit more football here. And really, the Eagles called the perfect play. They called the perfect play, and everything was executed perfectly except for the catch. Jalen Hurts rolls out, and it's kind of shocking. I started to think about this after the game, watching the Saquon Barkley drop highlight, low light. You see so many teams use that style of play to pick up short yardage in very critical situations where they kind of boot the quarterback out, send a guy to the flat. Because I think a lot of teams in that situation are playing man coverage because you don't want to, zone, they're just going to hit you for 3 yards. It's too hard to cover that in zone. So you got to have a guy in man. And when you're sending a guy that's inside out to the flat, he just has the angle. So I'd expect some teams maybe to recognize that is a play that's so often used in those situations, because they would have had the first down and they would have kneeled it out and they would have won the game. But Saquon drops the ball. And it kind of sucks because Saquon has looked really good in these first 2 games, and you just make a mistake. And in football, all it takes is one chance, because we've seen some crazy things happen. Football, ball bounces one way, it gets tipped, falls into the defender's arms. Sometimes it gets tipped and falls into the receiver's arms. All you need is one chance in the NFL. And Kirk Cousins had his moment, drove down, sealed it, and then I think an under-the-radar signing over the past couple years, I was really hoping the Patriots would sign Jesse Bates, because I knew Devin McCurdy was probably going to retire when Jesse was hitting free agency, and he is an absolute stud at free safety, the best one in the game. Falcons signed him to a big, lucrative contract. And since he's been there, he's really earned his money. He had a great play on Devontae Smith at the goal line earlier in the game where Devontae catches the ball. It's a touchdown, and he punches that ball right on the nose, breaks it up. And then obviously, the second biggest play of the game, Jalen Hurts gets pressure. He lobs it up. And Jesse just playing center field in the middle of the field, all the way to the sideline, while the ball's in the air, just reading the eyes, breaks on it perfectly with a sliding interception. I think you got to put that in one of the more underrated signings because, one, it's the Falcons. They didn't have a lot of, coverage on them last year in the offseason. This is a year prior to them getting Kirk Cousins, where their notoriety really had a huge upshoot. They signed Jesse Bates, and I gotta say, to have a clutch center fielder that is so versatile, can play up in the box, but also can play center field so well and has great range. That does so much for your defense. And he proved them right tonight. And it was great seeing him seal that victory for the Falcons. Falcons are now 1-1. Eagles 1-1. And at the beginning of this game, you really felt pretty good after what you saw from the Eagles, even though their defense was a little shaky that first game in Brazil. You still felt good because they have so much firepower on their offense with A.J. Brown, who wasn't playing tonight, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jahan Dotson. Like, even with A.J. Brown, that's still a trio of players that most teams, they would all be starters. I don't think there is a team they wouldn't be a starter. So, you know, going into this game, you were wondering, Falcons, man, they're probably gonna drop this game after they get upset by the Steelers in week 1. Then they're 0-2. Then they got to go to the Chiefs. Then they got to go to the Bucks. Then they play the Saints. You're like, oh my gosh. I mean, the Saints are the hottest team in football right now. The Bucks have shown that they're nobody to play with, and the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They lost this game. You're looking at, are they starting their season 0-5? And at that point, you got to have the conversation. It's probably a lost season. Why don't we throw the young guy in there with Michael Penix? But they avoid that, and they build some momentum. And the Eagles are almost in a similar situation. I feel a little bit better about the Eagles, but clearly, since their Super Bowl run, they are just not the same team. And I think when you step back and look at the full picture, Colts hire Shane Steichen, the Eagles OC that year, and the Cardinals hire their DC. I can't think of his name. Oh my gosh. I think it's Shane something. Forgive me. You really start to think that those two coordinators played such a big role in that team. Granted, they had a ton of talent. They still have a lot of that talent. But I think something that gets overlooked in the NFL because as a casual fan, you're not looking at the game as, oh, the coordinator's playing chess against the defensive coordinator. You're just thinking these guys are going out there and the most talent wins. Scheme matters. You know, in college they say it's the Jimmys and Joes, and the pros it's the X's and O's. And great scheme can make average players look really good. And so I think those two coordinators leaving really hurt them because Nick Sirianni, and I like Nick Sirianni, but let's be honest, I don't know really what he does besides call timeouts and throw a challenge flag. Maybe he can overrule some stuff, but I don't think he's a huge scheme guy. And they haven't been the same since then. And they've got the same talent, if not more, as they've added Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. You know, they lost Travis Kelce, but he had a great bit on Monday Night Football tonight talking about how Cam Jurgens is a stud and he helped them, you know, watch film on the centers they wanted to draft as their replacement, and he was like, that's the guy. So the fall off obviously is a little bit, but I think Cam Jurgens can grow into a really good center. So you pretty much have the same team, and you're just not getting the same results. So if you're an Eagles fan, you know, you feel good because you got the players, and they've got the experience, but for some reason, it just hasn't fully clicked since the Super Bowl. And now you're going to face the Saints and the Bucks, who I just mentioned. Saints are the hottest team right now, by far. And the Bucks just went into Detroit and kicked the shit out of the Lions, who are one of the best teams. And the Bucks, you know, knocked you out of the playoffs. So they're going to be going in with a little bit more confidence, like, we can beat this team. We beat them already. So the Eagles now, it's like, are you staring at 1-3? In a conference where, you know, you've got a lot of teams that are going to be vying for wild card position. So Saints and Bucks, one of those two teams is going to be battling for a wild card. You're trying to beat out the Cowboys for your division title. And then the Vikings have showed they can play well with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. The Cardinals have proven that they're going to be a feisty team this season. The Rams, they're 0-2, but let's not underestimate Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. And then we look at the AFC West, North, East. Oh yeah, and then the Packers and the Lions. So that's two teams in that division right there that, if the Eagles don't put some wins together, they could be looking at this thing from the passenger seat where they don't control their own destiny. Still early, still a lot to be unfolded. I have confidence that this team is going to make the playoffs. They have too much talent to not, and they've got great talent at the most important positions with quarterback, left tackle, right tackle, and running back. And they got some nice defensive pieces, especially on the D-line with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. So, Eagles fan, that's a tough loss. That really is. It's crushing at home, Monday Night Football, final seconds. That hurts. Where you really felt like you dictated most of the game and you had a chance to seal it off and you dropped the ball. That sucks. That definitely does. Take it from me. I know how you feel. Patriots lost in overtime this week. It hurts. Okay? At least we don't have playoff aspirations. So, good job to the Falcons. Great win. Couple other things I want to touch on. The penalty on the touchdown for Drake London's celebration looked like he was shooting a gun. Maybe he was pretending to shoot birds out of the sky. They threw a flag on that. I don't know if that's in the rule book. I mean, just watching as a, from my perspective as a viewer, it kind of felt like it was a personal decision by the ref to call that penalty. I don't know. It could be against the rules in the NFL. Felt real weird. They're allowed to celebrate, and he was right next to the ref. He did that. Felt a little bit weird. I don't know if that's going to get discussed. I'm sure he's going to get a fine because Roger Goodell hands out fines like, fucking Mormons hand out flyers. So, weird. Hoping somebody touches on that. I want a little bit of explanation. Another thing, you look at Bijan and Saquon Barkley, running back for the Eagles, Bijan for the Falcons. And something that's happened over the past few years that I just don't understand is the stock of running backs has gone so much downhill. It doesn't make sense. So everybody knows the quarterback touches the ball on every single play. So obviously they're the most important because they're the point guard, but even more important in football. You don't do much if you don't have a good quarterback. Thing is, who touches the ball the second most? The running back. Granted, they can degrade quicker, but any team that has a good running back is getting that player 20 to 25 touches in a game. A big game for a receiver, he gets 10 targets. And that's just targets. As a running back, you're getting 20 to 25 touches. So you're literally touching the ball 20 to 25 times a game. I don't know why the stock has gone so far downhill on running backs when they impact the game at such a tremendous level. And you saw it tonight. Bijan looked unstoppable at times. And Saquon, he started a little slow. They were getting good penetration on the run. But at any given time, Saquon can bust off a run for 12, 13 yards, and you pick up a first down just like that. He gets a couple of those on a drive. I mean, you're looking at 30 to 40 yards on a few explosive runs. So I think you saw tonight two of the best running backs in the league. I'd like to see them get more touches. You want to win the game, you control the run game. It sets up your play action. It makes defenders creep up more towards the line of scrimmage so you can hit passes beyond that. So if I'm an offensive coordinator and I got a Bijan, I got a Saquon, I've got a Alvin Kamara who looks like he has teleported back to his all-pro days and is looking lights out so far this season. I'm feeding them the ball, 20 to 25 times a game. You don't want to wear them out, but get them on some easy plays where they can run out of bounds, maybe a little swing pass, a screen where they don't have to take hits. Get them in some space. Let your playmakers make plays. Outside of that, tomorrow we're going to be coming on here and talking about the games that went down on Sunday. Didn't get a chance to do it last night, and then I worked all day today. Got home 5 minutes before kickoff. Had to jump on the TV and watch Monday Night Football because you never know what you're in store for when you turn on the TV and watch an NFL football game. This is just what's the best part about the NFL. All the games matter. College football is fun, but there's about 7 to 9 games a year in college that they don't really freaking matter. And now that they have the playoffs expanded to 12 teams, it makes those games matter a little bit more, which is why I've been watching it more. But in the NFL, every Sunday, any given Sunday, you know that a team like the Raiders can go into the house of the Ravens and upset them. And all these games, the teams are so good, and the season can be so condensed. There's 32 teams, 16 in each division, in each conference. Sometimes it feels like that, that game at the fair where you shoot the water into a little target and everybody's so close. And if you miss it for just a split second, you end up losing. That's how the playoff race feels. And that's like games like tonight. When you're winning with a minute and a half left and you have a chance to seal the game, this could come back and haunt you. The Bengals losing to the Patriots week 1. That can haunt you. The Ravens dropping this game going to 0-2 against the Raiders. This stuff will come back to haunt you. There's a reason teams that start 0-2 typically don't make the playoffs. It's because there's 15 other teams in your conference that have guys that all make millions of dollars. So they're damn good players. So just another great Monday night game. Feels like we've been just getting really incredible primetime games over the past few years. And I'm here for it. Feed me more. I'm hungry. That's it for tonight, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Again, like and subscribe. Comment down below. Excited to break down the games tomorrow. And yeah, enjoy your week. Peace out.